So on Russian state TV, Solovyov and Gurulyov are talking about how the Russians should erase Great Britain from the map, how they should just blow up Great Britain and the world will be better off and nobody's going to stop them and they wouldn't strike back and all this sort of bluster. Now, it's just bluster. And I've talked in the last couple of days about how, if you really want to stop a bully, call them on their bluff and you find out that it was all bluff. Well, here we are. We're going to watch this. Special thanks to the Russian Media Monitor, as always, for the great work that they do. Here we go. I think it's time for the Russian bear to come out of its den and strike a couple of times with its paw to teach a hard lesson. Go ahead, Comrade Lieutenant General. There are plenty of fat targets, starting with gas tankers, that are cruising near the coast of the United States. So the first is to lash out at the U.S. The U.S. isn't even directly in combat with you, but okay. They can be struck with the simplest drone. It flies over the gas tanker, it's gone. It can be launched and drop it from anywhere, since this is what they're asking for. But of course, you have to understand that the enemy gets a vote too. So if you do that, what happens to Russian ships and tankers and that sort of thing? Last time I said that a war should be merciless. There is no pity for the enemy. Alexander Vasilyevich Surov has warned us that the enemy that has not been finished off is the scariest. The enemy has to be completely finished off. I honestly don't understand why we're holding back and not shooting everyone in Ukraine and beyond. Okay, why are you holding back in Ukraine? You're not holding back in Ukraine. You're doing the best that you possibly can because you can't use nuclear weapons. That's why you're holding back, because there would be retaliation. And beyond, people beyond the borders of Ukraine, why you're not striking at them? Because there would be massive retaliation and it would be terrible for you. Or blowing them up. I may be saying it harshly, but let me remind you how Trotsky was liquidated, how Bandera was liquidated. No one in our country is ashamed of this, right? No one is ashamed that we liquidated these criminals. Those who are ashamed have already left. They're worshiping at Bandera's grave. Okay, let's talk about Bandera for a moment, because the Ukrainians do kind of revere Bandera, but that's because of his stance on Ukrainian independence. It has nothing else to do with anything relating to working with the Nazis. When he worked with the Nazis, it was for liberation of Ukraine. Remember, the Ukrainians had just gone through the Holodomor into the 1930s. And so the other option, any other option than being starved to death, might look appealing if it means that they can get their independence. They shouldn't be dictating the rules of this game to us. We should be dictating to them, so that everyone would sit in their bunkers afraid to show their nose. Like, they only have one setting, and that is all on nuke. Like, we're just going to punch everybody. Like, modulate a little bit, so that they think about every word before saying it. Great Britain? What makes it great? They sent 15,000 men. Let's finish off this island once and for all. I've said this before. If someone thinks that anyone will be worse off if we erase Britain off the face of this earth, including ourselves, no one will be worse off for it. Will there be a retaliatory strike? No, there won't be. Of course, that's insane to think that you could strike at Britain and there wouldn't be some kind of strike back. Now, would it be nuclear? Not necessarily. But he's saying that because they have nukes, they won't strike back. That's absurd. They'll strike back in some kind of retaliatory way, and you've just got to embrace reality. There won't be, for one simple reason: Russia's strategic nuclear forces. They hide like little girls behind the football team, behind their nuclear forces, as if that is going to solve everything for them, and it's certainly not. Are in full combat readiness. Ballistic missiles are ready. We can deploy the submarines to the areas of their military mission. They can easily stay there up to 6 months. We can deploy strategic air assets to airfields. It's probably time to arm the KH-55 with nuclear warheads, so no one dares to do anything. We can certainly reach them with Orishnik and Caliber. And nothing will be left of that island. Of course, if you did that, nothing would be left of Russia either, because the world wouldn't tolerate that. And you have to know that. But he's just blustering because that's what they do. They bluster. They can't possibly mean any of this. And if they do mean this, they have an even worse problem set. We need to finally finish off this evil. No one ever expects anything except for nasty things out of that country. And he's talking about out of Britain. But of course, the world isn't bracing against Britain. They're bracing against Russia because, like, if you ask people in Estonia, Finland, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Ukraine, all those countries are like if you ask them who's the problem in the world, they're not going to say, Great Britain. They irritate me. No, they're going to say Russia. Russia may very well invade us. They say it's harsh and inhumane. Is it humane to blast us with English missiles? Okay, but what happened before that? Like when I talk to my children, one of my children will come to me and say, so-and-so hit me, or when they were smaller, bit me, or said something to me, or whatever. Okay, what happened just before that? Same kind of question here. Why are they hitting you with British missiles? Because of what you're doing in Ukraine. Were they hitting you with British missiles before you rolled over Ukraine's border? The answer is no. If the answer is no, maybe that's the issue. Negotiations? Everyone says there'll be negotiations. No problem, there will be negotiations. Without that island, for example, once that island is gone, there'll be normal negotiations. We would be in a good negotiating position. Our dove of peace, Andre, is giving me the side eye. Well, they want to talk to us from a position of strength. They want to create a position of strength for Zelensky, and we will create a position of strength for ourselves. Erase the island to heck off the map. This is our position of strength. This is absurd. It's so absurd that they would be saying that kind of thing. And but of course, they're not actually going to do anything about that. They're just blustering. And again, you have to ask why they're blustering and why they're saying this. This is for consumption of Russian consumers on Russian state TV. Secondly, negotiations happen when there's a dead end. Listen, guys, there is no dead end for us. I don't understand why we need these negotiations while we are winning. Well, you're not, how do you define winning? I mean, do you define winning as taking 1/2 of 1% or slightly more, I think, than 1/2 of 1% and losing 400,000 men in the process? Is that really winning? I mean, something seems off about that kind of calculation. Honestly, what do we need for them? By the way, in 2017, Samuel Charap and Timothy Colton, another well-known Harvard scientist, have presented their book in Moscow at the Valdai Club about the Ukraine conflict. It has a great title, Everyone Loses. But I know that one country that won't lose in this conflict, it's the Russian Federation, but all the rest will lose. Really? All the rest will lose? But Russia is going to prevail just because they're mighty Mother Russia. I think that before striking Great Britain, we should demolish something like Bankova Street. Okay, now they're actually closer to reality in the sense that at least they're targeting. So if you say Bankova Street, that's like saying Pennsylvania Avenue in the United States, or something like Number 10 or Whitehall in Britain. Okay, so you're targeting the seat of power. Okay, at least that's closer to reality than anything else they've talked about here. Why are you limiting us this way? Why not both? We can start small. Where do you get this? Why not do it in both places? Why limit ourselves? We can offset things with only one action. To heck with those historic buildings on Bankova Street. Oh, you got it. You finally get it. I never said otherwise. Just like me, Andre never pitted those buildings with nuclear munitions, right? Why? When we have Orishnik. Solovyov says, do it with anything we want. I don't think it would take that much. Stop it. The military will decide what to do it with. Yes, the military will decide what to do it with. I say we should start small. Then everything they're saying now, and have been pre-planning several months ago, would have to be reevaluated. A preventative strike. Wait a minute. A preventative strike? What are you talking about? We can see what they're getting ready to do. The Viper must be beheaded. Definitely. But a preventative strike against Great Britain? A preventative strike against the military and political leadership of Ukraine? Well, okay, so the preventative strike might be one against Great Britain, but the one against Ukraine, 1,050 days into the war? Nah, not exactly. More than that, to scare them. What are they scared of? We can destroy Lviv. Why destroy Lemberg, which is Lviv, to scare them? It's enough to strike Kyiv Dam. Now we're talking about flooding civilians out in a legit tea operation here. And they're talking about that like this is just like, I want to have a ham sandwich. What about Kyiv, the mother of all Russian cities? When we take it, it'll dry up. Don't worry. We'll restore it. It will be a tsunami with waves that are 14 meters tall, but you were just proposing? We could certainly target Bankova Street. Why should we be careful? A war knows no pity. How many times have we rebuilt Kyiv? Okay, so that's what they're talking about here. They're in some kind of crazy la-la land with this blustering, but again, I think it's only bluster. There's no way that any of this is going to happen, but this is sold on TV to Russian consumers who are hearing this tough talk so that they can sell the special military operation and show that they are proud of Mother Russia. Okay, tell me what you thought about what you saw here, because it's almost a case study in some kind of lunacy. Put it in the comments below. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.